All right, last day at TIFF, and I still got a bunch of videos coming out, so like stay tuned for those. Let's talk about the Banshees of INISHERIN, and that is how you pronounce it because that's how they say it in the movie. Martin McDonagh's follow-up to 3 Billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri, and this movie was the best. I had a good ass time with this one. It pretty much delivers on what the trailer kind of gives you. Now, if you're a fan of Martin McDonagh, especially from like his In Bruges days, you'll definitely love this movie because it's pretty much him just going back to form like at the top of his game. An Irish dark comedy about someone who doesn't want to be friends with someone else anymore and the other person essentially trying to figure out why, if I can put it in simple terms. At first I was wondering like, okay, why is this so funny? Like, are people laughing just because of the accent? And it's like, no. It's actually a funny movie. The comedic timing of everything, the comedic performances, the dialogue, the script is fantastic. The one-liners, the zingers in there, it's all great. And then on the other hand, this movie surprisingly explores that troubling dynamic between a friendship where one person just doesn't want to be friends with anyone anymore. And it's a tough thing to navigate, especially like in real life, obviously, where sometimes you just start to get a vibe where you're like, I just don't like this person anymore. It's nothing that they even did or said. You just kind of don't really want to be around them. That's a tough dynamic to kind of really get across without being kind of just obnoxious. And it explores that really well on both sides, from the person who doesn't want to be friends anymore and the person who's like, what the hell, why doesn't that person want to be friends with me if I didn't do anything wrong? It's a tricky act to play, and honestly, as I'm talking about this movie, the more I like it. But that dynamic that it explores really well, it would not have been explored well if it wasn't for the performances. And Colin Farrell maybe has never been better. Not that I think Colin Farrell is misused in Hollywood, because he's obviously just having a good old time and he gives out great performances, but I feel like this is like the best use of his talents. We see some of his dramatic stuff even from this year with like an underseen movie like After Yang, where it's a little bit more quiet and reserved. And he can also just be kind of crazy, like with the Penguin even. So this one, not that I want to say it's a mashup of all of them, because there's no like Penguin in here, but like I said, it is an insanely well-rounded performance of each little subgenre of that, and he's like never been better, honestly, in my opinion. I haven't seen everything, but I fucking love him in this movie. The rest of the cast is great. Brendan Gleeson is great. Barry Keoghan is great. Kerry Condon is fantastic. All three of them are just amazing, and we'll talk about Oscars in a second once again. Now, if I had to kind of criticize anything, the Brendan Gleeson character, he's the one who doesn't want to be friends with Colin Farrell anymore. I'm not sure exactly how much of an arc he necessarily goes through. And I guess what I mean by that is sometimes during the movie, it felt like almost a little bit repetitive, just like, okay, he doesn't want to be friends with him anymore, but Colin Farrell is kind of trying to figure out why. And I felt like they kind of went back to that a little bit too much with like the same sort of dynamic at play. And I'm sure some people will disagree with me on that, but at least just from my first watch, and once again, I was operating on low battery life like I have been this entire festival. But that's just kind of one of the things that stood out to me. But even having said that, I just really enjoyed this movie. This is one of my favorites of the festivals. I thought the cinematography was pretty great. The lighting was fantastic. I liked the editing for it. And once again, the performances and the script, absolutely top tier. I do want to see this again, but for now, the Banshees of INISHERIN, 4 stars. So Oscars is interesting. This one has really shot up, and it really hasn't stopped since Venice. I absolutely have this in my picture, and honestly, I am having a hard time seeing it fall off. People really love this movie at TIFF, and even some of the more, quote, negative reactions weren't even that negative. And some people haven't even seen those reactions yet. So it's just I think, people love this movie. They thought it was hilarious, and Martin McDonagh, he's done it before with a movie in Best Picture. So I think that'll happen, actually, and we don't really need to talk too much about it. Now, director, I don't think so. The only way for me to get that is if Banshees becomes like a surefire top 5 contender, and even then, who knows if that's enough, because I don't know if the directing is exactly showy. Now, actor, I mean, Colin Farrell, I think he absolutely should get in, and I think he will get in. I actually think he's pretty high. I don't know where I would have him right now. I have not revisited my predictions since like August when I last did it. He would be somewhere at 2 or 3, honestly, because his movie will be strong. I think he is fantastic. He just won the Best Actor at Venice over Brendan Fraser, which is pretty crazy. Not that those awards mean that much, but even still, an award's an award. I fucking love them in this movie. It's one of my favorite performances of the year, honestly. It's not like he's like screaming or crying that much, but I mean, it's just awesome. Supporting actress, I actually do have Kerry Condon getting in. She is fantastic. She cries. She yells a little bit. She's like the sister who's like, what the fuck are you doing? That kind of thing. She's great. Now, supporting actor is a little bit interesting. I might be alone on this, but I actually don't think Brendan Gleeson is like a surefire thing for Banshees. He was a very influential part of my childhood as Mad-Eye Moody from The Goblet of Fire, the Harry Potter movies. It's just that the role, I don't I still don't think he does that much, considering the character is pretty standoffish, and it does a lot of things with subtlety. I was having a conversation last night with some people about it, and they were kind of pushing back, and everyone likes to throw out other nominations where that got in where you didn't really think they did that much and they get in. Stuff like even Kieran Hines. Some people are like, think about Cody Smith McPhee. No one really thought he was gonna be the one to get in, and then he's the one that gets in. I hear you. I concede that. So maybe I'll just keep Gleeson in the 5. But for me, I'll be honest, I actually thought Barry Keoghan was more of a standout. His character, he kind of plays like a very naive kid, but he's an insanely lovable, like almost sympathetic and funny character. He gets a lot of good lines, and he comes across just like a kid. Some people in the audience, like after he would speak, I would literally hear people be like, "Aw," like stuff like that. So all I'm saying is, watch out for Barry Keoghan. If this movie hits, which I think it actually kind of will, I'm just keeping my eye on him. Now, Screenplay, there is some talk about which category it'll go into. I've pretty much heard that Searchlight is going to push it in original because it is an original piece. Some people said it has been adapted from a play, but it is only the title of a McDonagh's unpublished play that he took, not the actual content. So who knows? Matt Neglia confirmed it, that Searchlight is pushing to original. Now, technically, that's not even up to them. It's up to the Academy. Whatever. Either way, it's in. If it's an original, it's in. If it's an adapted, it's in. The question is, can it win? And then besides that, honestly, I'm not sure if any texts come through. I mean, I know some people, I've already seen some throw out, like maybe production design. I don't really buy that, but it's whatever. Some people throw out editing. I feel like some people just throw out editing if it's just like a good movie, so they'll just kind of throw in editing. I hear that. I don't really think so, though. The score I quite liked, but I don't think it's one of those movies that you listen to it or you watch it and you're like, that needs to get in, I'm going to vote for it. I don't think it's like that. But honestly, some actors in a screenplay is actually enough. And we've seen that happen before. We'll have to see, because Banshees might become Searchlight's #1 priority. That depends on, how they really feel about Empire of Light, which has not gotten the raves that Banshees has gotten. But yeah, when this movie comes out, I already forgot when it's going to come out. I don't remember anything about my life right now. Go check it out. Okay, on to the next one again.